I'm Leandra Godoy, a clinical psychologist, and I'm an assistant professor of pediatrics at Children's. And I am housed within the Child Health Advocacy Institute and also the Division of Psychology and Behavioral Health. And on this role, this study, I was the PI.
Can you tell us what made you get involved, I guess, in research? Were you always involved in research, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I got interested in research as an undergraduate, where I majored in psychology, and so I think I found it helpful in just learning more about certain topics, and saw it as part of being on the cutting edge of how to know if what you're doing is working and for whom, and how to improve things. That research was a critical component of that. So I've been involved, I'd say, since then in some aspect of research.
Now, for this particular pilot program that you applied for, it was for autism. What made you go into autism research? Is it something that you've been doing already, or just something new to you? Tell us more.
Yeah, no, this was a new area, so it was exciting to get this opportunity within autism research. I've previously been doing research on mental health integration in primary care and early childhood mental health and health disparities. And I think became interested in autism as seeing it as it's an area that the prevalence of autism in the population is increasing, and there's a lot of gaps in care. So that's what drew me to the area of autism in terms of wanting to identify ways to improve caring for kids with autism, in terms of, and with regard to this specific study, improving it in terms of community knowledge, and making community providers more aware of early signs of autism and how to kind of successfully connect families with needed resources.
And I guess I know you had mentioned it earlier in our interview, but how did the pilot funding help you with this specific research study? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this funding was really exciting. It was, I'd say, critical in terms of giving us the ability to really implement these trainings for community early childhood educators around autism, because early childhood educators, and by that meaning daycare providers or early interventionists who have a lot of contact with young children who have autism or at risk for having autism, and they have good knowledge usually on general child development, but might not have autism specific knowledge. So the funding allowed us to develop and implement trainings for the community providers, and then also work with them on kind of co-leading trainings so that the efforts could be sustainable after the funding period ended. And then, importantly, evaluating the feasibility of this. So we gave surveys before and after the trainings. We also did focus groups and interviews to learn more about what the folks thought about the training, so that we can know how to make improvements in the future.
In terms of, is there any one piece of advice that you would give to somebody doing or starting out a translational research?
Yeah, so I think involving community stakeholders throughout the process. So we had meetings, as we were developing the grant proposal, and then as we were thinking through, for example, what we wanted the trainings to focus on, how to structure them, how to make sense of, how to get feedback on how they went to make improvements, and then also in thinking about next steps for the work. So again, I think just involvement at all stages of the process was critical, almost thinking of them as part of your investigator team rather than as like a separate group from that.
Awesome. I think that is all that I have for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to share? Any parting thoughts too about as a researcher journey?
No, I think again, just very appreciative of the CTSI and this opportunity and the fact that there is this mechanism with an explicit focus on community engagement, which I think is so valuable and often not available through research funding. I think there's a lot of more traditional research funding mechanisms are structured in a way that don't allow for that co-creation with the community. So for example, you have to like propose everything up front without being able to go, again, co-create throughout and say like, what do you want? How should we adapt it? So the fact that the CTSI recognizes that and has this explicit grant mechanism with that community engagement research focus is wonderful. So very appreciative.